Hopefully you've watched the part 1 of this series. If you haven't, I would link that on in the description, so you can go to watch that before coming in here. What we did there was to look at a basic solution to how you can dynamically get the next birthday for anybody in Excel. But now we identified a flaw in that approach, which is a case where the actual birthday has passed based on the current period in the current year. For example, if we look at this particular guy here, we realize that his next birthday, as identified in this calculation, was supposed to be 28th of January 2025, which has actually passed. So contextually, we would want it to be that if their birthday has passed in the current year, then the birthday should be shifted to the next year, which sort of appeals logically. What we'll do now is, how can we now improvise for that such that whenever we are looking at this schedule, we would have it to dynamically pick when the birthday would actually be, and not necessarily stick it to the current year. What I would do here is I will just copy the formula that we already have here, and then I'll come in here to the dynamic worksheet, and then I paste that here, enter. So I will just quickly format this so that this gives us the date format, Ctrl+Shift+3. That will give us this particular date format. So this tells us that for this person, again, the next birthday should be 28th of January 2025. So how do we correct this? 28th of January 2025 has actually passed based on the current period. So today is 15th of February 2025. So what we want to do is that the next birthday for this person should actually be in the coming year. For us to achieve this, there are a few things that we need to look at. And this is based on how we think through this particular problem. Again, I've always said in most of the classes that I hold that Excel is all about the thought process around problems. We can have a single problem, different people would approach it differently. It just depends on how individuals had thought through the problem and how they feel about the particular solution that they want for the problem. Let's think about it this way. For us to know that the birthday has actually passed in the current period, what are the things that we need to check? So we know the birthday, and we know, so I'll just do this. So we know the birthday and we know the current dates. For us to know that the birthday has passed, it means that the current date is after the birthday. What do I mean? The current day, today now for instance, is greater than the birthday. That's how we know if the birthday has actually passed. Which invariably tells us that what we need to check particularly is what month are we in. If we are in February, for example, and the birthday is in January, it means that the birthday has passed, and it means that for us to get the next January, that will be the coming year. So that's number one. Number two is that we may also need to check the current date, but let's take it in bits. So first, let's stick with a month to say that we want to check whether the current month, the birthday month, has actually passed. If we check that, and then we see that the birth month has actually passed, then we want to shift the date by 1 year forward. That is the first solution. So I come in here to this formula, and where we have this year of date, this portion of the formula that says year of date, we already know that the month and the day for birthday would always be constant. That would never change. What we need to bring a bit of dynamism into is the actual year of the birthday. So now what we'll do is we need to write a condition to check if the month has actually passed. That's the birth month. If the birth month has passed, we want to check that. If that is true, which means if the birth month, for example, is January and we are in February, if that is correct, then we want to add 1 to the year. So I will write an if statement here. I will do if check the month of today the whatever month we are in, check if that is greater than the month of birth. So I'll select the birth. Want to check if the month of today is greater than the birth month. If that is true, go ahead to the year, add 1 to it, which means shift the year by 1 year ahead. Otherwise, just use the year of today. I'll close this bracket. I'll close this bracket as well. So what is this doing? Everything that we see here, remember that the date function has 3 arguments. It has the year, the month, and the day. The month and the day, they are constant. The year is what we want to make dynamic now, but for us to make it dynamic, we want to check if the month of birth has actually passed. If it has passed, then we want to add 1 to the year, which is what this portion would do. Otherwise, we want to use the actual year of today. So I hit enter here. So I just need to close one bracket somewhere. Okay, so I need to close the if here. I hit enter, and this gives us 28th of January 2026. So if I push this down like this, Ctrl D to copy down, everything looks like it's right, which means for this particular guy whose birthday was in January, we'll see that it says that the next birthday will now be in 2026 because we have passed January as at this time. And that's the only person that's there. And also for this guy, Jolin Yemi, his birthday is on the 16th of February 1978, and so the next birthday will be 16th of February 2025, which is correct. So the next birthday will be more like tomorrow. But we'll run into another issue now. So let's assume that we have somebody here. I just changed this to 11 February 1970, for example. I hit enter. You see that for this guy, it says that the next birthday will be 11th of February 2025, which is somehow not correct because 11th of February 2025 has passed by 4 or 5 days now. And so what we are expecting is that the next birthday should actually be 11th of February 2026. It means that our calculation has not catered for all scenarios yet. Yeah, we have been able to check for the month. Maybe what we also need to do is to sort of check if the actual day has passed, but it's a bit tricky. So what we'll do here is this. We have 2 conditions. Condition 1. Condition 1 is to check if the current month if the birth month has passed. That is the first condition, which is what we have checked. Yeah. The second condition now, for this to be fully dynamic, is now to check if the birth month is the same as the current month, which is a case of saying that the current month is February, the birth month is also February. If that is the case, we also now want to check if the current day, the birthday within the current month has passed. So which is more like saying that yes, the birth month is equal to the current month. So the birth month was February and current month is February. But we also want to check within that if the actual day of birth has passed. So for example, now this particular person, we see here that this person was given birth to in February, and in the current year we are also in February. So the other thing we now need to check is to now check if the actual day of birth, which is 11 for this person, has passed within the current month. So it has passed, which means for that now we will need to now also shift the year by 1. I hope that this logic makes some sense. So we'll come here to edit our formula again, and then we come here within our if statement. Here we have checked for one condition here. So we want to check for another condition, but we only want we don't want, what we want is just to shift the date by a year if any of our conditions are true. So if condition 1 is true, it should shift the year by 1. If the condition 2 is true, it should shift the year by 1. So we don't necessarily, we just want to check for one of them to be true, not that both has to be true at the same time. So for that case, we'll use the OR function in Excel. So I'll do OR, and then whatever we have checked first here, this will be the first condition, which is checking that the month of today is greater than the month of birth. So that is the first condition we're checking. But the second condition actually has two conditions within, which both has to be true. First is the month of birth must be equal to the month of today. And the second condition is that the day of birth must still be ahead. So which means the day of birth is greater than or equal to the current day rather. So for that, because we're testing two conditions in here, in condition 2, we need to now use the AND function. So I do AND. And what are we testing here? We want to test that the month of today is actually, the month of today is equal to the month of birth. That is the first thing we're checking. If this is true, we also want to check that the day of birth, the day of today, let's do it this way, the day of today is greater than or equal to the day of birth. What this will translate to is that if the day of today is 11, today is 15 for example, and then the day of birth is also 15, that is greater than or equal to, so we want to invariably shift the birthday to the next year. That is what we're saying. So then I just close the bracket for and I need to close the bracket for all, like this. And I think we should be fine with this. So if all of this is true, then it should add 1 to the year. Otherwise, use the normal year, which is the current year, and then add that to the month and the day. So let's hit our enter. Now we have this. Let me push this down again. And now we see that for this guy that was given birth to on February 11th. Now the next birthday will be next year, 2026, 11th of February. And let's say that I change, is there anyone who has, so let's say that we change the day here to 15th of February, which is actually today, 1920. So what I expect is that it should also shift days to be 2026, because yeah, technically today is the best day, the next best day will be next year. But again, if you want to leave that okay, if today is still their birthday, yes, you want to mark it as today and not shift it to next year, or just need to modify here is rather than say greater than or equal to, we say greater than, like so. I hit enter, and then you see now that this comes back to 2025, even when the month are the same and the day are the same. All right, I hope this adds a bit of value. So this is how you can dynamically calculate when next birthday of employees would be. So if you have a schedule that has to do with birthdays within the organization or within the school, and you want to have that update dynamically, this is the approach, or one of the approaches that you might have to go by. And the same approach works for when the next work anniversary would be. We have the date of employment, the date of joining the organization, and you want to know when the next work anniversary would be dynamically. It's the same approach, the same thought process. I leave you to try that out. So I'll also link this file in the description of the video. Thank you. We'll catch again.